Hi, welcome to USA Wrestling's Moments Off the Mat. My name's Mike Clayton. I manage our National Coaches Education Program at USA Wrestling, and today we're in for a big treat. We've got CEO and co-founder of Spiderfit Kids, Brett Klika. Brett, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
How's life in California for you with all the stuff going on?
Life is locked down right now. It's a change, and I think it's a similar change across the board, across the world, really. I mean, how many times can the whole world say we're going through this together, essentially? Or I'm working from home, my wife's working from home. I'm accustomed to traveling a lot. I work, my office is out at home, but I travel a lot, and I'm grounded. I'm here. My daughter's home from school. My wife is home from work. So we've learned how to my house has turned into part production facility for video, part office, part my wife's office, part school. And I'm sure a lot of people are going through that right now. So we're making the best of it, and we're moving forward. We're doing whatever we can to move forward.
How important is that in this? Same thing. We're changing a guest bedroom into an office space. So, our daughter has more of a formal classroom environment. It's even for our kids who are pretty disciplined, not having that space or that structure. What are some of the things that have you heard either implemented at home or you've been kind of hearing about through your communication with other folks that they're doing in the home life?
The first step is to give ourselves a break.
I'm liking this.
The first week, man, I had a schedule printed out. Because I'm a very scheduled person, I had a schedule printed out, and it caused so much anxiety trying to actually thinking that I was going to turn into a homeschool teacher overnight. And so I think what's important with parents is to realize that take a deep breath. My daughter's only 6, but she's very directed, and she really likes all the different opportunities. But you're going to find through the schools, a lot of the schools are up and running virtually right now. So obviously use those resources as much as possible. But if your schools haven't been as fast to get up with the virtual, find some go-to resources. My daughter's school's kind of gotten up, and she's got those resources now through the school's website. But before that, we were finding the Cincinnati Zoo has on Facebook, they have a Facebook Live where they taught about animals for 15 minutes every day. We found I'm forgetting the Kennedy Center for Art had an artist who would take kids through developing art every single day. So we were finding these different things that could occupy her time. We ordered workbooks off of, she really likes Star Wars. It's kind of funny. This little 6-year-old curly haired girl, she loves Star Wars. And so we ordered these Star Wars workbooks from Amazon, and it's for math and for reading. And so she can go sit down and do those for these periods of time. And even just, we'll say, and we do 20-minute chunks. That's if I can give any tip that's worked, is these little 20-minute chunks. So I actually give her the timer, and I can't just say, hey, go read for 2 hours. She's 6. She's not going to do that. And quite frankly, a lot of kids aren't. But the 20-minute thing, and it was 20 minutes, okay, read this. 20 minutes, now do math. 20 minutes of free time. 20 minutes, do this. 20 minutes of math. 20 minutes of free time. Now you can be outside for 20 minutes. And yes, she's coming and checking in every 20 minutes, and I still got to get my work done. But it's bought me some time. She can engage for 20 minutes. And it's actually, easy is not the word, but it's become manageable to put things together in these little 20-minute segments, building into each hour 20 minutes where she gets to kind of do something on her own. So 40 minutes of work, 20 minutes of free time. And that's what the 6-year-old. Older kids might be able to hold on longer, but that's what we found.
I love how you're talking about understanding by the age of your child what their attention span capabilities are going to be. Maybe that's the best lead into athlete development and a lot of the physical literacy work that you do. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about your background as a personal trainer and an IDEA Personal Trainer of the Year, an author, a motivational speaker. With your background, and then to bring this physical literacy piece in, why is understanding the age of your child with what you expect of them so important?
Well, this is something that I started my career, actually. I started my career when I was like 16 years old, coaching soccer and working with little kids. And then I bounced to the other end of the spectrum in college, starting to play sports, getting hurt, and then actually getting into strength and conditioning. So I went from working for little kids to NCAA D1 strength and conditioning, and then leaving that situation, going to work and live at the U.S. Olympic Training Center in San Diego. That's what brought me down to San Diego, working with those athletes, bounce from one end of the spectrum to the other, and kind of seeing that big wide spectrum, seeing with some of my Olympic level athletes, some of the stuff that has created barriers for them, realizing that, oh man, if we could reverse engineer them back to probably when they were like, 9 or 10, we could have fixed this thing that's holding them back at 21 or 22. And I really got a passion for, okay, I want to understand that process and understand that true long-term development process, because here in the States, we don't have a good, firm, broadly accepted long-term development process. And so I really started to look into, okay, what are they doing in other parts of the world? Canada, and you look back to other athletic development systems that get kids at young ages, and they kind of follow a congruent just all the way through. They have these, and after researching those and seeing those and understanding, boy, at 6 years old, the brain, it's not like kids are just born and they have an adult brain and then we can just say, okay, hey kid, you just do what this adult does. It doesn't work that way. Like if a 6-year-old isn't listening to you, it's not because they're a jerk. It's because they don't have the part of their brain that's interested in what you're talking about. They don't have the part of the brain that can lock into information for long periods of time. As soon as we as coaches understand literally the tools they have available to them, it makes us feel a lot less frustrated, for one, but we stop frustrating our athletes. And in learning that, and that's a big thing we've done with Spiderfit, is we really want to help and put this information out there. I realized this being a coach for so long, I didn't know this stuff. I didn't understand this process. So I became very impassioned about, hey, other coaches, other people involved with youth sports and youth development need to understand who they're working with, who that child is in front of them, whether they're 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or pre-puberty or post-puberty, or quite frankly, if you have a young athlete coming to you who's very deconditioned, they're showing up to a new sport, their parents decided after a bad trip to the doctor that they're going to, well, they needed to do a sport, so they haven't done anything. They're 9 years old and now do wrestling or do football, and they show up day one with nothing. You have to realize that 9-year-old might be 9 chronologically, but from a physical development standpoint, you see a move, you're like, oh man, you haven't developed these little milestones because you weren't active. When coaches understand and see their athletes like that versus just, okay, you're 9th grade, that means we need to put a barbell on your back, versus, oh, you're in 8th grade, so we shouldn't do strength training. That's a ridiculous way to look at development. But when we understand truly what's going on, both chronologically and just from a experience standpoint with our athletes, we have an opportunity to meet them where they're at, not just physically. Now, I mentioned a 6-year-old doesn't have the same brain. If I'm working with a 6-year-old, it's got to be in a different package. The information I provide them has got to be in a different package than I'm working with a 12-year-old. Because if I'm trying to get a 6-year-old to win a state championship, they're more interested in, can we have fun today and do I get a sticker? That's what they're interested in. It's important to know that. And once we understand what motivates and what's relevant to different ages, alongside where they're at developmentally, think about the opportunities we have as coaches longitudinally to continue to motivate, to continue to develop, and continue to truly be proactive in the developmental process.
So I'm a coach, I'm a parent, I'm listening to the Matt.tv webcast, and I'm buying what you're saying. I'm like, I've never really heard this before about stage and age, and okay, my 6-year-old cognitively may not be able to handle what my 16-year-old can, so I have to change my coaching or my parenting. Where do I start?
You want the easiest answer? Well, first you go to school and read obsessively about it. But really, honestly, the best way to start is to truly be a better listener as a coach. We got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and there's probably a good reason for that. Good coaches understand that. Good coaches understand using their 2 ears more than they use their 1 mouth. And what I mean by that is, if you're working with 7-year-olds and you're finding they're constantly disengaged, or you're 50% of your practice time, your training time is punitive, or it's you exhausting yourself saying, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. If you realize that's happening, it's not their fault, it's your fault. When we can start to pay more attention and listen, we can get kids into situations that we're using more engaged. Our practices become more engaging, so they're getting more out of it. Intensity is higher, so competition levels rise. It could be that they practice more at home. So that listening piece is extremely important. The next piece is just plain a basic level of education as a parent. It doesn't mean we have to go back to school and learn all these things, but there's something we create through Spiderfit Kids. We create a lot of very simple, whether you follow us on Facebook, whether you get certified by us, whether anything, any of the resources we have, we tried to create a very simple way to, just through blogs, if nothing else, just follow our blog, but just kind of simple. If you just read a couple blogs, we kind of create an understanding of where kids are developmentally. And that's a very abridged way to learn these things. I can recommend a lot of the top researchers out there, Dr. Avery Feigenbaum. If you just go to PubMed and you want to research anything about kids, is strength training safe? What's the best type of strength training for kids? Dr. Avery Feigenbaum is a tremendous resource. The International Youth Conditioning Association, also a tremendous resource. They have all kinds of different resources to learn it. And a lot of these resources are geared towards the parent or coach level. So you don't have to be you don't have to be a scientist in this in order to be able to understand it. And I think just starting there, but quite honestly too, finding professionals, finding coaches as a parent, seeking professionals, seeking coaches that have observed or have really shown that they are good listeners, and looking for coaches like that, and being a coach, finding coaches that have had tremendous success connecting with their athletes, and spending some time finding positive mentors in the coaching space that can help you out. So those are all good, simple ways to start, kind of from ground zero to start. But that number one thing is using those ears.
So if I'm sitting on the other end of this video, kind of watching what's going on, there's going to be a little bit of upfront effort on my part to be able to create a better environment where kids can excel. What's the payoff?
If you think about, just think of the simplest terms. If, let's say, as a parent, let's not even say as a coach, as a parent, if you are going on a vacation to a place your kid wants to go, think of how much easier it is to get ready to go on that vacation, to the transportation of that vacation, and once you arrive at that vacation, how much easier it is and how much better the experience is. So we take that idea to sport. If we're going into a practice and we create a practice and training environment that's relevant to the young athletes, so they understand why they're doing the activities. The activities are short, so they don't go on forever. The activities are appropriate to their level of ability. All of a sudden, they feel like they can do it. They feel they're excited about it. So one of the things that's going to happen is training intensity is going to increase. When training intensity increases, because practice is engaging and relevant and positive for the kids. Remember, kids, and this is burning the research, their number one ask from sports is that it's fun. That's their number one ask. So if we make it engaging, relevant, and fun for them, they get into the situation and we're going to get greater results from training. But then we go to the next level. What do we as coaches, at least in the States, most of the time, our young kids, we're not putting them in, we can't do it like the Soviets used to do, where we take them away at 4 years old and they're just in camp now for the rest of their life. They're living, we get them a couple days a week, especially when they're young. So in order for them to truly improve skills, we need to depend on the fact that they're probably doing something on their own. They're at least playing with the skills that we give them. Maybe they're not drilling it hard, but they're playing with it. They're kind of experimenting with the skills. They'll only do that if they enjoy it. They'll only do it if it's relevant to them. So if we create this positive training environment where we have accountability, kids enjoy it, they're going to go home, they're going to show mom and dad, and they're going to show their friends, and they're going to continue to do it. So instead of 2 days of practice a week, now we might be getting 7 days a week of practice. And when they show up to practice, we're getting way more out of them. So think about the quality, the volume of quality hours of training that are happening there. It's tremendous. And that makes a tremendous impact on performance long-term.
Because we invested a little time to create the tools that give us a better environment to give the kids that fun place where they can come, feel safe, and learn.
Yeah. And just because things aren't fun, a lot of times coaches will hear the word fun and they think that, fun and intensity are mutually exclusive, or they think that enjoyment and skill development are mutually exclusive. And that's completely false. And if we think back to our own athletic careers, the things that truly boosted our athletic potential and our athletic performance were things that we connected with, and things that we found relevant to our own performance, our own sport. And we connected to it. And then there was those things that we should have done. We all have them, but we didn't like it. Whether it wasn't relevant to us, whether we didn't enjoy it, we didn't do it. And we probably could have been better if we did, but we never found the click.
So can we look at our kids as almost a thermostat or a some kind of a measuring device about how we are completing our job as parents and coaches? Is that our tool?
100%. And like I said, when we're coaching and you're finding you're frustrated with your kids, it's not the kids. 98% of the time, it's not the kids. It's something that we've created, something that we are not doing, or something we're doing too much. It's a great barometer. But here's the thing. It's so hard as a coach. We come with all our years of experience as a parent. You're like, I'm the parent. You need to listen to me. And hey, we are the authority. We have to create boundaries and rules. But if we're going to create the best situation, just like an executive in a company, we have to pay attention and listen and watch and observe and measure the results of our interactions. And if those results are not coming back positive, we need to modify those interactions, even if it's something outside of our comfort zone.
And for the results that we're looking for, what are your recommendations? I think, I always go with the bell curve. We've got some coaches that are only about winning, some that are never about winning, and then we've got everything in between. How do we measure these results, and what are your recommendations for how we determine what results we really should look for, especially for these 12 and under age group kids?
Yeah, essentially, we're looking at assessment tools. We're looking at assessment tools to see is this approach where we're putting fun, we're putting skill development in front of winning. I think what we need to do is decide, well, if skill development is important, are we assessing skills? I know in a lot of sports, they start kids competing at a high level, and actually their long-term outcomes depend on the outcomes of these basketball games when they're 7 years old. Well, in that case, you're not spending a lot of time on skill development. You're just recruiting the best players, which
that doesn't make you a good coach?
yeah, not at 7. If you're in college and you're a good recruiter, you're good. But my point with that is instead of the win or loss record being the assessment under age of 12, making our assessment about, okay, can they do these movement standards? Are they able to do a squat, a lunge, a skip, a shuffle? Are they able to put movements together? Are they able to do these foundational movement standards? Because then we can put the focus on that. And then within each sport, there's certain foundational elements of a sport that we can assess. Can they do this? Can they do this? Can they do this? Because the truth is, if we build this foundation of skill through games and through things that are enjoyable, we build these skills. When competition counts, when they get into that point where coaches are looking at, are you going to be able to compete in my collegiate program? Are you going to be able to compete on the national team? Once they get into that 16, 17, 18, that's when it counts. If they have that skill base, and we've decided, instead of just saying, do you win, do you win, do you win? Do you have these skills? So now when they get their growth, they enter puberty, they enter this arena where it becomes important. Do they have that base? When they have that base, we know this. We know that their performance is going to be greater. And I think we need to look at our assessment and start assessing, no matter what sport it is, these basic fundamental movement skills, and then just the general fundamental movement skills. And then within each sport, committing to, whether it's wrestling or if it's soccer, it's at this age, can they do these things? That's what we're going to focus on. Okay, they went into some matches, they lost the matches, but they can do these things now. Okay, well, we're going to keep working and drilling these things. Now, can they do these things? They're 8 years old. Can they do these things? They're going to do matches, win, lose, whatever. Can they do these things? And we progress them like that. And then we get to the age where it counts. They have that foundation. Now they can go out and they compete, and they have that basic skill.
So is that win or lose? If we're developing the physical literacy pieces of the young kids, if I'm winning, I don't need that physical literacy, do I? I mean, I'm already winning. Isn't that how it works?
And that's the problem. This is, I was over in Europe. I was actually it was Amsterdam a couple of years ago, and I was watching these kids play soccer. And it was actually, I had known this guy. I was over there for business, and I knew this guy, and he's watching the kids. And this kid was just scoring all these goals. He was running around everybody scoring all the goals. And I was like, wow, that kid's a stud. Like that, that's your pro. And he just gave me this look, and this look was like, you silly American. And he said, I'm not even watching that kid. I was like, what? And he's like, watch this kid. So he pointed to this whole other kid who wasn't scoring goals. But this kid was like playing off the ball. The kid was running to where he should go. He's like, that's true instinct. He goes, that other kid just developed before all the other kids. And he said, he's just faster. And now who knows, someday he said, but that's not skill, just to run side to side. He goes, this is the kid I'm watching. He goes, that's the kid that's going to have the highest potential. It was a whole different way to look at the game, because this kid actually had all these little skills versus the kid probably just developed a year or two ahead of everybody. So he just had a little bit more strength, a little more speed. The problem with rewarding those kids is those kids generally hit their developmental ceiling 9th, 10th grade, while the other kids continue to develop all the way through. Some of these kids aren't going to hit their absolute peak till almost college or even in college. So when we discount these late bloomers by discounting actual skill development, we're limiting our pool of athletes at the high end. And that was a real learning experience for me.
Just, it blows my mind. We're in this same vein, right? I met you when Chris Snyder and the coach education staff at the Olympic Training Center brought you in to do a presentation for, I think we had 98 coach educators. It was an awesome group. And we went into this big gym, and right away you had us. We're flying around like airplanes, figuring out like proprioception and spatial awareness. And you were teaching us all of these things, and we were just having fun running around the gym. If we're going to build these physical literacy skills, and somebody's looking at this video wondering, okay, what's my first step? This is you, right? This is where we introduce Powerful Playground and the tools and the resources of Spiderfit Kids. Right?
Yes. And quite honestly, I mean, obviously it's going to sound like you'd be surprised, oh, wow, Brett's promoting Spiderfit Kids for this. But the truth is, this is where we come in realizing all these things and realizing that resources I didn't have as a coach. What I had as a coach is my experience with sports, education of physiology and anatomy from college, and my mentors as coaches, which largely were collegiate and on up, and trying to apply that to young kids. My education experience was a complete mismatch. And then I was like, well, let me look at some resources for training young kids. It's largely buried in physical education literature, or for coaching itself, it's buried in Eastern Soviet literature and Hungarian literature. And you have to look at Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky and looking at some of these other, you're probably not going to do that. And so what we did is when you start in with what we have with a Powerful Playground, with our course Powerful Play, with our 60 ways to play, it just gives you an outline of, hey, here's some ways to take these skills, put them into this fun format, and this is where that fits into a practice. And that's what we've had a lot of success with, working with different teams and organizations, and really all over the world.
If people wanted to get into touch with you to discuss these options and these tools, what would be the best way for them to reach out to connect?
So you can go through our contact through our website, brett@spiderfitkids.com. That goes into, I check that. That's a direct contact. Through our Facebook page, Spiderfit Kids, you can just direct message us through there as well. So if you're checking out our stuff and you're on our Spiderfit Kids Facebook page, where we post multiple times a day, whether it be research. Right now, every day we're doing PE for your living room, so you'll see that. I'm doing a follow-along PE class, having a lot of fun with kids. But just direct messages there, you can see what we're doing. And if you have questions, we're getting right back to people. Right now is a time where a lot of kids, a lot of organizations need help, and we're running on all cylinders right now. This is our opportunity to serve the community, and this is what we're here to do.
And all of these resources, you've opened Powerful Playground up for free. These are all free now
Yeah.
because of everything we're dealing with, right?
Exactly. So if you go to www.powerfulplayground.com, that's usually our member site. So it's an annual membership for coaches and organizations, and we have members from all over the world go to that site, and it's a database of all of our activities. So we have almost 300 activities on there right now. Every month we add more activities, and we put them into this easily searchable format. So you can go to it. Like I said, it's open and free right now. But if you go to powerfulplayground.com, you can say, okay, I'm working with 6-year-olds. We want to work on speed or strength, and I have no equipment. Or you can just put all these different things into this little database, and then it'll show you all the activities we have for that. So we made that free right away. Like I said, we're doing the PE in your living room. The world needs this right now. And so, like I said, we're here to serve.
What a great opportunity to get them to the site, check it out, see what resources are there, and then hopefully maybe even get some feedback from them on what they like and whether or not this is a resource that we definitely need to make sure we provide our members in the future. Because with better physical literacy, we really raise the tide for all ships.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Brett, thank you so much for everything you do with the spiderfitkids.com and the powerfulplayground.com. Any closing words for our members and those watching this video about the current times we're living in and physical literacy and how we can kind of help get through this time with those kind of programs?
Yeah, I think in general, whether we're in this time or not, I think it's realizing that kids are kids first, then they're athletes. I think that's an important thing. If I'm looking at an 8-year-old, first they're an 8-year-old. So to treat them, train them, develop them like they're an 8-year-old. And then we can layer in they're an 8-year-old soccer player, an 8-year-old wrestler, an 8-year-old basketball player. They're not a basketball player first. They're not a wrestler first. They're not a soccer player first. They're an 8-year-old. And once we start to see that, we have a lot more opportunities. And for the times we're in right now, a lot of parents are and coaches and athletes are stressed because we can't get with our team and we can't follow our routines and we can't compete. And that is stressful because we love our sports but realize that if you look at the rest of the world, America's really good at competing. We're really good at putting together leagues and playing our sport and doing our activity. What we're not good at is overall development. And right now, we don't have an opportunity to compete, but right now we do have a unique opportunity to catch up in regards to development, whether that be getting stronger, whether that be getting faster, improving our conditioning. Maybe it's drilling specific aspects of your sport as opposed to just going out and doing your sport. Right now is a time to work on the fundamentals. And in America in general, that is a weakness of ours. So understand the opportunity here. I know it doesn't seem like an opportunity, but it truly is. So embrace that opportunity. If you're an athlete, if you're a coach, if you're a parent, realize it's a time to embrace that opportunity. But even a bigger picture than that, right now is a time to not stress ourselves about the little things. Remember the things in our life. Maybe we need to connect with the things that are truly more important in our life. And it's absolutely okay to do that, even if it's outside of your sport.
That's awesome. We love your values that are very shared with what we do in our wrestling community. And we appreciate these resources that you've created and now to have the opportunity to make those free, during this situation. Thank you so much for your time and all your expertise. And we look forward to having our members reach out and get a chance to work with you more in the future.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
You bet.